Hello and welcome to the GhostÉire channel. My name's Anthony Kerrigan. I'm a member of the GhostÉire Paranormal Psycho Research Team, and tonight we're doing a Fortress Spike Island investigation review. So we're going to be running down the history, the types of manifestation, the legends, also the base tests, the equipment, the experiments, conclusion, and most of all, the footage, which you'll be able to see live on this show. Before we start anything tonight I'm just going to say you can contact us. How you can contact us, you can go onto this post, and if you have any questions in between the footage being shown, just leave a comment and I'll say hi as well. If you're affiliated with any paranormal team or any tourist attraction, feel free to put in brackets the name of the organization and I'll give a shout out to you. Also, if you go to our website, www.ghostére.net, go to the contact page, fill in the blanks. If you have a private message, just put in brackets private message on your email. I advise you tonight, folks, as well, if you're watching the footage as well, which is coming up, also to wear earphones, especially if you're listening to see what questions are asked. Sometimes during investigations, people do be whispering or talking. So it'd be great if you maybe need earphones. If you get them now, it'd be probably the best idea. And also this footage will also be up on YouTube as well. So if you go to GhostÉire Paranormal, please subscribe to the channel and you'll see future videos, and you can see past videos as well along with this show. So without further ado, we went to Fortress Spike Island in County Cork in early March 2018. And if you can remember, there was a massive snowstorm that broke across the country the week before. And so conditions were fairly cold for the investigation that took place. So I'm just going to run through a bit of the history with you now at the moment. I will be babbling on for a bit, but I will be coming in and out to footage as well, and I will come to your questions or shout outs as well. So just to do the history there, I'll pop this on now. So as you can see, there's Fortress Spike Island there, you see it on the bottom left, in Cove, County Cork, and this is the history of the location. The 24 acres star-shaped fort, otherwise known as Irelands Alcatraz in Cork Harbour, is on the site of a monastic colony. Inishpick, as known in Irish, is an island made up of 103 acres. The Galway and Roach dynasties held claim to the island until the Irish Rebellion of 1641. Arnold Juice van Keppel, 1st Earl of Albemarle, right-hand man of William III, had ownership of the island in 1698. In this year, William Smith of Ballymore succeeded custody. Nicholas Filton followed around 1779. He leased a section of the island to the British government. The Spike Island Battery was built for temporary use in 1779. It was armed with 18 24-pounder long guns. Cork Harbour was a busy port, as it served as an ideal location to send supplies to the British forces in the West Indies and North America due to the American Revolution of 1775. Work was accepted to be done at the Irish Board of Audience to construct a permanent fort, brackets Fort Westmoreland, which was finally accomplished in 1802 with more superior artillery. Prince Frederick, Duke of York and Albany, put forward to make Spike Island into a fortress capable of holding at least 3,000 soldiers. An officers' mess block, northeast casemates block, northwest casemates block, accommodation A block and accommodation B block were built around 1817. the fort would be used as a convict depot by 1847. In the years to come, with the Great Famine, 1845 to 1852, the number of inmates increased up to 2,300. During the Irish War of Independence, the fort remained as a platoon and a prison, with IRA prisoners being detained there. One such higher ranking volunteer, Richard Dick Barrett, managed to escape in November 1921 by rowing boat, along with Moss Toomey, Tom Crofts, and Bill Quirk. Spike Island persisted under British authority until 11th of July 1938. The island was granted to Ireland. The Irish Army, FCA, and the Irish Navy would be based at Spike Island in later decades. It continued being a prison until finally closing in 2004. The punishment block was built in 1860 after a prison warden, William Reddy, was murdered. His job was to belittle the most dangerous inmates, the penal class. Prisoners were chained to the walls for up to 23.5 hours a day. Described as hell on earth, there were several attempts of self-destruction, but at least one succeeding, a 26-year-old burglar named Thomas Morris. The children's prison used to hold about 100 juveniles in its time, as young as 12. They would sleep in hammocks. Some children would never leave the island alive due to the harsh conditions endured at such a vulnerable age. So that is the history, folks, and I'm just going to go on to the type of manifestation and legend. I just put a few shout outs first there. Stacey, hi Stacey, how you do? Stacey Moran. Court Gel, the old one. No, it's Fortress Spike Island in Cove, Stacey. So I'm just going to go over the footage and the research done after the investigation. So you'll see that coming up in a minute. So we're just going to go over the type of manifestation and legends. Now with Spike Island, there's so many types of thought in there. If you've gone on a tour there, you probably experienced stuff yourself. And if you've there's the after dark tours which are going on at the moment as well. If you're going to the island if you're thinking of going to the island, you're going to really be amazed by the tours that are given there. It's a great experience, well worth doing. Even with paranormal teams, they've experienced stuff there in the past, all different types of alternative types of paranormal activity as well. But this is just one of them, which I'm going to talk about now. A frequently seen tall, slimy soldier, known as the Gaunt Gunner, is regarded to haunt the area with black circular holes for eyes. He has been shot at several times, yet with no reaction or body found. A mysterious white figure of a woman has been witnessed on the island too. So this is just one case of the Gaunt Gunner, reportedly also seen, I think, in 1914 as well, by a young girl. I think it's called Eileen as well, and she witnessed this apparition in the Doctor's Garden, which is around the outskirts of the actual star-shaped fort. So we will be moving on to the footage soon. Irene says, hi Irene. She likes, hi bro. This is the place I'd really love to visit next year. Hopefully we can see you there. Well, it'd be amazing. Hopefully you do come over, and I hope you're all keeping well. I know the wildfires is happening there in California. I hope you're all keeping safe at the moment there. So I'm just gonna go through. If you have any questions as well, feel free to put them forward. I'll go in between questions or shout outs in between the footage and in between bits of information. So I'm just going to go through now the base tests. As I said before, it was cold. It was just after the snowstorm, if you can remember, late February 2018. And the country was submerged in snow. And this, if it was the weekend, if I can remember, it happened, and the following Friday we were out on the island, so we just missed it there. So as you'll see now with the base tests, I'm going to go over them there with you this evening. So this was from Fortress Spike Island. The current moon phase was third quarter, 50% of full. The astrological significance, this means to do with the stars, the constellations. Optimism in the future with Mars and Venus in Trin. New strategies by people that look interesting and might work. The EMF, which is electromagnetic field. A reading of up to 1 milligauss in cell 2 abandoned gel from overhead lighting. A reading of up to 3 milligauss in punishment block, ground floor from fuse box, overhead lighting, surveillance cameras, emergency exit lighting and wall cabling. A reading of up to 1 milligauss in punishment block, first floor from overhead spotlights, wall cabling and sockets. A reading of up to 2 milligauss in children's prison for emergency exit lighting, overhead spotlights, wall lighting, wall cabling and projectors. So with not too much EMF actually in around the building there. It's an island a couple of kilometers off the mainland, and there wasn't too much EMF. Now there is military bases around the island as well. The forecast was for light rain. The external temperature was 6.4 degrees Celsius. The internal temperature was lower inside at 6.0. Now this was a cold time of the year, just after a big snowstorm in the country. Humidity was 66%, and lux was 000. That means there was no lighting. There was no chance to. There was no lighting, especially in abandoned jail. We were just working. It was soon getting dark when we started the investigation. Decibel level: A low 34.6, A high 64.3, C low 60.6, and C high 73.3. That means there was quite a bit of number of noise around the area, and maybe it's to do with the water that was around and the military bases that were around us as well. Sound, you could easily, if you're on Spike Island, you probably know this if you do the tours, if you work there as well, if you're a paranormal team, you do hear sounds coming from the mainland as well. It does travel across the water. The most active area room was the abandoned jail. Type of manifestation was intelligent and residual. Time duration was 5:30 p.m. till 9 p.m. False anomaly risk was very high, and the preface was good. And the investigators for the evening was myself, Anthony Kerrigan, 70 investigations. Jennifer Kerrigan, 52 investigations. Sinead Houlihan, 33 investigations. Cameron Murphy, 10 investigations. Keen Scannell, 4 investigations. And Lindsay Critchley with 1 investigation. Now we'll go and start with the footage soon. I just got a message, I think, from Lorraine Omani. Hi Lorraine, if you could, you could put a question on the post, on this post, I'll be able to read much better than going onto Facebook, because I'm not actually on Facebook now at the moment. But if you could put a message on the feed, I can see it here on the studio. So the 3 locations we're going to go through over was the abandoned jail, the punishment block, and the children's prison. So first up, folks, I'm going to show you the first bit of footage. We'll get through onto it straight away. And this is from a seance inside the abandoned jail. Now, just to listen, if you have earphones, it's great if you have earphones, you can tune in to this. So this is part 1 of 5 sections, and this is the abandoned jail in Spike Island. come and join us on a seance to sit and to relax within the energies that we are in, using the elements, to breathe the coldness, the heat, also. The spark, keep warm, to warm, to injure. Come and step forward. If you stayed here, but could not leave, we're here to hear your story. Tell us, give us a message. Maybe you're an energy associated with experiments that may have been happening here.
What experiments were undertaken here?
Tell us what nationality you are, what number, what mark has been given to you. Estado.
What message do you have for us?
An offering of whiskey that was made as well, that may have been used for shaving.
Did you drown close to here? Did you work in the seas? I've been shivering since I sat down. Is that something to do with you?
To show you that we're here. But then there's, I can feel like the table's rolling.
Do you want to touch someone here in the room at all? And what room number was this? Bang on any of the beds here, or bang on the table? contact over there instead.
Am I sleeping in bed? Is this yourself?
Okay, folks, so that was the first section. So I'm going to go on to the second section now in a minute. So before that, let me just see there. I'm just going to go through a few highs there. So we have Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine. If I can get myself on the screen, it would be handy, wouldn't it? There, like, you know, if I get that solo. So hi, Lorraine. She says two of us doing research one day in the guides canteen, just to the right of the main gate. We heard children running and laughing. The island was closed. Now, Lorraine worked on the island there as well. She's just saying that there was, to the right, we heard children running and laughing. Now there was all sorts of types of hauntings and types of Bobby intelligent beings on the island there, spiritual beings, residual. There's a big list of Poppy spiritual energy on the island itself. Children, I would probably say there would be children as well there. Patrick says, is there a way, sorry, my eyes, is there a way to get involved with ghost hunting, as I've had plenty of experiences with spirit? Hi, Patrick. If you can probably tell us where you're from there as well, we can probably, there's loads of teams around Ireland as well and England there. Depending where you're from there, I can probably forward you on to somebody there yourself there. Just let us know where you're from and I'll give you a quick mention there if there's any, you know, just give us a quick mention where you're from. Hazel says, O'Kelly says, there are orbs on the table flying. This was a seance in cell number 2 in the abandoned jail. There probably would be. Now, there's whether to do with dust or, you know, I would probably mostly say it would be dust that was maybe flying around. But then again, we just don't know, like, you know, where spirits are supposed to manifest, and, you know, orbs go back to centuries before. There's accounts of orbs going back centuries, so I wouldn't just attributed to paranormal spiritual manifestations, so I wouldn't discount orbs either there. So Hugh James, hi Hugh, coming up next week on the show. Looks a great place. Yes, it is, Hugh, there, and, you know, it's a great place. It's a shame with the COVID there, and I think it's still open to still do tours and after dark tours as well. And I think I'm not too sure about paranormal teams at the moment there. Probably not at the moment, but hopefully in the future they will open up for more paranormal teams to go over as well. So we're going to quickly go on to the second piece of footage here, and it's going to be, keep your questions coming in, or I will come in between and out of them there. And this is the second piece of footage. And we're still in cell number 2 in the abandoned jail. We will, this is about the second session. And in here, we're going to do like a coordinates map there. And we're going to find out what type of, we're going to use description cards, find out what happened on the island using a map and grid-lined map to see what happened. And this gets a bit interesting on this section, folks. So remember, earphones are great for this, so you can hear more better. We'd be calling out a bit more. You'll be able to hear us a bit more now on this piece of footage, hopefully. Okay, this, we're asking for, we have a set of cards around the board here. We're asking 3 nationalities most common in this area with this room or this building. Okay, which nationality are you? Which country do you come from? Use energy, step forward, come and step forward. There's different cards here representing different nationalities. One step forward.
Jeez, can't even focus on thing here.
Are you getting it?
No.
No. Okay, that was
Yeah.
the
Old Irish.
no,
The old Irish
right.
right.
What other nationalities are here? Use energy, step forward. Feel that energy almost in some time. Step forward. Giving you the energy, the essence, the food, the power.
Same one.
What nationalities are in, what's the main nationality in the punishment block?
French. France.
Okay. Connect again.
Yep.
Okay. Dear Spirit, we're asking for description cards around the side. Can you move to which one?
What's that?
Okay.
Murder. Okay.
That's murder, can move around in the circle. Small circle will do, suffice, thank you. Okay, it's definitely murder. Okay. And one more description card. We were looking to link K2 meters.
My phone is off as well, so.
One more description of that's happened around on this island. So we've had murder. Can you name another one? We'll ask them which coordinate is then. Variables.
Burials, yeah.
We'll just take that.
Meters are going mad.
Is that one going
That
off?
one's going as well.
Alright, it's interesting. At least it's picking up. Maybe it's just going to pick up now. Yeah.
Okay, dear Stone,
Good,
your
yeah.
energy's coming straight forward. Now, can you tell us there's a grid, but just fingers off there, what's it? There's a grid there, marked from A to D, 1 to 6. Can you tell us one area where this murder happened on the island?
D4, isn't it? D4. Yeah. Yeah.
Read that. If that's the final one, can you move it to that area again? That was the final area section. Okay, dear spirit, burials. We'll get more information using the talking board later on about information burials, which are in a grid.
Yeah, B1 just the cemetery. Yeah.
B1, obviously,
Yeah. Or it's granny, you never know. Yeah.
If that's the only one area, can you move it to that area? But if there isn't, can you move it to another square? B6.
In the sea, is it? Yeah.
Okay. What area has the most grief? Has the most grief?
C4, which is that here? Don't know.
Which area would we expect items to be removed by you or anyone in your realm?
D3.
Okay. What area has the whispering voice?
B3.
What area is best for smuggling?
B4.
Two questions there. What area is a doorway to our realm for you to come?
B4.
What area are we most watched?
C2.
Okay, that's it. Right, we'll pack the bags. What time is it, anyone?
Can't even get this.
Okay, folks. Yeah, so that's part 2 of 5 there. So I'm just going to go over that now. That was like coordinates, like a kind of a map of the whole island, and we use coordinates to find out specific descriptions around the area to pinpoint using the graph. So the plant shepherd uses a spiritual tool, a divination tool, which we connected on to find out, like, as it was selected with description cards, where murder and burials took place on the island. So I'm just going to go over a bit of the conclusion now. This you might find interesting. This was the second investigation we had done on the island, the first inside the battlements. We previously investigated Fortress Spike Island back in 2011. If I know myself, we got permission from Cork County Council to go over and do an investigation there. With such a massive area, it was decided that we'd best stick with just 3 buildings in the fort. The abandoned jail, punishment block, and children's prison were chosen. The temperature was warmer outside than inside the abandoned jail. The seance in cell 2 in the abandoned jail had some effect on the team. Cameron and Anthony could be seen swaying side to side. Cameron swayed and rocked forwards and backwards at different intervals. His movement was attracted or altered to such words and questions that involved message, an Enochian phrase to see spirits, and a room number. So you could see Cameron going back and forth when mentioning a message or a room number. Supposedly, a secret code was common to these notions. Anthony's head could be seen twitching a large number of times to his left. Unusual was the sight of seeing the fingers on his right hand curve back. This began after he called out, "Maybe you're an energy associated with experience that may have been happening here." This might explain how he felt the table was floating as his fingertips weren't connected on the tablecloth. On the footage you might have just seen there, with this seance there, you see me with my fingers above, and probably I thought it was floating. The table was floating, but actually my fingers were above the table, off the table surface. Cold drafts, breezes, and shivering were mentioned. The abandoned jail's neglect had left it frail, not that it was appetizing in the first place. The nippy air from broken windows may have contributed to this development. So the cold breezes may have been contributed by the blasts of cold air coming from outside from the broken windows. Cameron had the sense that cell number 9 had significance, yet it is inconclusive if this room has any bearing to the location's history or what was coming forth. The spirit in this seance declared being of Irish extraction, as signalled by the planchette moving to the Irish nationalist green heart flag card. The flag was widely flown in the 1798 Irish Rebellion by Ireland and used up until December 1918. So the spirit, in connection with the planchette, picked out the 1798 Irish Rebellion card, the old Irish flag, The spirit in cell 2 was possibly on the island during this period, or had a passionate view on Irish patriotism. So it was an Irish spirit coming through, maybe from that time period as well, from probably from the 1798 rebellion up until 1918. Spirit or spirits of a French origin were indicated to be near. The planchette moved to the French tricolor flag card. These colours were flown to the Napoleon army in 1812. Following on, it was recognised in the July Revolution of 1830 as the national flag of France. So you could say from mid-1850s, we're getting a time span of mid-1850s to early 1900s to when these spirits were in the jail from. We moved on to the description cards. Here, the murder and burials cards were identified. One recorded murder was of William Reddy in 1856, a warden at Spike Island. And Edmund Power, an 18-year-old prisoner, was convicted of his murder. The area in which the murder was reported by the spirit was D4 on the grid reference map. So I'm going to show you the map of what it came out there, folks. This is it. You'll see it now, what came up on the graph. So I'm just going to solo this on. You might be able to see it there. You might need glasses, but I'm going to read it through with you. So the area in which murder was reported was by the spirit was on D4 on the grid reference map, the northeastern section of the fort, close to Mitchell Hall C block, Bastion 5, and the land just outside the perimeter walls. On the evening of the 26th of September 1856, Edmund Power, along with Patrick Norris, both struck Warder William Reddy with a blunt instrument in Ward 6 A block, probably the middle of the building on the ground floor. The accommodation A block building in the fort is towards the southwest. A more recent discovery back in 2016 by UCC archaeologists found a mass grave of up to 2,000 prisoners on the east side of the island, dating back to the early 1850s. For the burials, the B1 grid reference square was picked. So this for the burials was B1. This would be the newer southern cemetery, consisting of about 150 graves. The word cemetery is marked out on the map. This will make it an easy target. Yet another area on the map was pointed out to be another burial site, B6, as you can see, or the yellow writing on the map there. Found out on the map be just off the North Harbour shoreline. The area of C4 towards the front of the fort was identified by the spirit as a place of grief. This is the northeastern casemate block and a 50% portion of the punishment block, plus a slight part of the northwestern casemate block. It would give an impression of sadness to be restrained and brought to the prison fort, known for its brutality, to serve a sentence for some, for an inessential reason, not crime. Nothing to sleep on, no window to the outside world, damp and complete darkness. There were just a few of the minor hardships. When asking which area would you expect items to be moved by you or anyone in your realm, the planchette guided us to D3, as you can see on the map. the southeastern part of the fort, singling out a Bastion 4 and the majority of Accommodation B Block and Mitchell Hall. This could be defined as places of interest towards objects being moved for unexplainable phenomena or related to stealing or surrender of possessions. It is said a vast amount of prisoners were sent to Spike Island for stealing, and one end at Spike, theft would be common on the inside. Whispering voices were associated with B3, as you can see on the map, B3 whispering. This showed up as a majority of the northwestern casemate block, exercise yard, Bastion 1, and about 60% of the northern side of the 1916 block. Under strict supervision, prisoners had to work in silence. Talking could only be permitted if necessary in the labour and in a range of notice. The exercise yard might have been a place for getting information across between convicts. So this is where whispering is. As you can see on the map, it's in the middle of the map, down in the start by the exercise yard, which would mean whispering. The grid reference point B4 was targeted for two things: for smuggling and a doorway to our realm. The pathway into the fort is in this part of the map, also the main entrance. This is where the spirit might have recognized as the entry to come and go, and it might not be just the inmates who smuggled. A Sergeant Robert Hurst, a turnkey, a jailer, was dismissed in 1851 for bringing members of Spike Island staff over to Queenstown Cove for a drinking session, then returning whilst being on duty. And Matthew Humphreys, a cook on the Spike Island, took unauthorised payments from food suppliers. He was dismissed too. So, dishonesty, self-indulgence and greed were just a few of the prison staff's traits. So the staff weren't that all good themselves either. The final question in this process, what area are we most watched, led us to the grid reference C2, the southern end of the fort, featuring Accommodation A Block and Bastion 3. The two-storey Accommodation A Block is one of the oldest buildings on the island. 11 dormitories were on the ground floor and 11 smaller dormitories on the first floor, each room sleeping up to 30 men on the ground. Windows were bricked up. It had formerly based soldiers. Ambitious, we think we might serve as a distraction or aid in a way for the spirit prisoner to go undetected, a means for breaking free or curious on our intent. We assumed that we were being noticed. So on this early stage of the investigation, it seemed that we were being noticed, and it seems that's where they were coming from, the accommodation block on the far side of the fort as you go into it. So I'm just going to take you now. This is the third part of footage, and this is the punishment block. So we're going to go over towards the punishment block now, which you'll see now in a minute. So do keep your questions. A few more questions coming in. Sorry now. Eddie Kelly says. Hey guys. Hi Eddie. How you doing? Hi Eddie. Long time. I think we're talking to you before. I've changed your name. Hi Eddie. How you doing there? So keep your questions going in. If you're affiliated with any paranormal team or tourist attraction, just give us a shout out there and we'll say hi to you there. So this is part 3. This is the punishment block. This is when we do more. This is when we do calling out. And the sound you hear are part of the past enactment experiment, the Singapore theory type of experiment. And you're going to hear a few EVPs. Put earphones on if you can. And this is it. This is the punishment block, part 3.
Yeah.
Okay. You okay, folks? So we're going to put some recordings in, just bring the energy in. That's the dear spirits to come forward. We've got recording devices here. Step forward, use the energies. The light has seen, the dark are blind, and the world that walk, and the circle that flies. Step out of the shadows and into the light, step out of the light and into the shadows. What light is heavy, what heavy is light. The time is now, now is now, now it shall be. GhostÉire. Voulez-vous forcer and delicately be out soon. One step forward. We are the ghosts in your realm. Tell us what treads these floors. Jen is going to be walking around with just doing a past enactment experiment just with sounds. I may be familiar with this location. I know they might bring back a bad memory, but if you can in your realm, tell us what treads these floors. Okay, we have a break, Jen, yeah? We'll go down below there, stick the lights on here. Talking there. It's best if I put the mic on, wouldn't it, there, folks? So that was a past enactment experiment. The Singapore theory put in sounds of torture into the punishment box just to see if there was any reaction there, just to see if there was any spirits coming back and forth. Lorraine says, she said, watch for the alcoves. We have seen an officer soldier standing there. That's interesting because we're going to show the second piece of footage now. We're still in the punishment block. And what you'll see now is a member of the team, Kean Scannell. He's going to have shock pads put on him, and he's going to be on his own up in one of the rooms by himself, and he's going to be shocking himself. Shocking himself. So everybody else down below on the ground floor of the punishment block is going to be calling out. So this is a nice bit of footage there. This is where we float around, and you'll see the different areas of the rooms that you might like to be interested in watching there. So thanks, Lane. Keep on being in the comments, and this is part 4, and this is their punishment block. Step forward towards us now, step forward. Associated with the military, can step forward.
come forward. So come forward. Can you copy us? Can you copy us? Okay, Gina, I'm going to ask. Can you hear me over? Don't fall back. We've done it first there with Keane. Can you touch him now? Thank you.
I can hear you over.
Okay.
Alright. Alright.
Can I sound again very quiet? Grandpa, are you graffiti? Shot. Just don't say to you, know. Anybody did that? I will tap it too. I will tap it too. You want to throw something? Okay, this is your last chance in this area. This is your last chance in this area. What were you doing earlier? What, that shop there, Keen, over?
That room's creepy. Oh, are we going there?
Keen, can you ask a question out of the
Chair.
walkie-talkie over?
That chair there, I just know when I sit down on it.
Just make a question, yeah? So that'll start over.
Just ask some random question. Over.
Just make a question, yeah? Call it out loud, over.
Over. Can you make a noise? A knock on the door, a knock on the wall? Knock on the cabinet here. If anyone is present in this room, knock on the cabinet. Shake the bed, the one I'm on right now, or the one next to me. Make a noise. Show me a presence here, or touch me.
Okay, folks, so that was part 4. That was a punishment block there. If you can see there was Keen might have heard me saying shock yourself. That was because Keen had pads on him, electric pads attached to his back, and that was Toll was telling him to shock himself, literally, just to bring some sort of feeling back into the punishment block again. It's to do with the endorphins there in the brain. Anyway, so this is the conclusion. Next on our walkabout and attention was the punishment block. We covered the sound recordings made on the stairs in this building. Female voices were found mainly whispering, one voice conceivably saying prisoners would scream. If this didn't underline the cruelty, then several more would pop up to back up the verdict. A few seconds into the calling out vigil 1, and a distressed female voice could be heard clearly saying, help. It's hard not to wonder that the world's largest prison at one time failed to take in one female person. Prostitution was widespread and illegal in Ireland. It was prominent in Queenstown, otherwise known as Cove now. The prison wasn't fully regulated to whom came in and out, nor would it have been wise to shut down the prison should anything unorderly have taken place. Who would have put up with all the convicts? Where would you have put up the convicts? The second voice recorded had an impression of pain. You may hear it on the recording, part 3. He nutted me in a strong Irish accent and in a distress was caught after Anthony called out, tell us what treads these floors. It might have been the right words used by Anthony to set off a trigger to this type of emotion. The headbutt may have been caused as a result of an altercation with another spirit, possibly in an act of averting any information being disclosed from the injured spirit that they assaulted. Someone in authority or control may have accomplished their task, leading or enraged prisoner on another prison inmate, or more accurately, the deed was done by a member of prison staff. The majority of senior prison personnel were soldiers belonging or fighting for the British Empire. So this is to do with the voice which we hear. It said, he nutted me. So we're trying to figure out, was it another prisoner on another prisoner? Or was it prison staff on a prisoner? Or vice versa? As Keane was busy shaking as he shocked himself in the separation calling out vigil in a military cap and helmet cell on the first floor of the punishment block, everybody else had gathered down on the ground floor in the same block. Here, yet another presumed effect could be heard by Anthony and some guests to a question put by Sinead relating to torture. It was a groan, another root of discomfort. So groans were heard on the ground floor, whilst Keane, like we see on the footage there, he was like shaking. He wasn't doing anything else. You could see him shaking there. That was on the. He was in a cell, one of the rooms up above in the punishment block. You can see him shaking. If you've got earphones there as well, what you can hear in the background as well is like a type of military air raid type of alarm, siren as well. which was interesting. It was cool to hear that. So next on now, we go on to the children's prison, and this is the last piece of footage here, and this is where we do the talking board. Before we go through, I just got a few shout outs. So Hugh, hi Hugh, like that experiment and singing bowl changed your harmonics frequencies. Yes, so as you can hear, there's like a dull kind of or high pitched sound, and I'm moving around with a bowl, a singing bowl. That creates it's supposed to change the vibrations in the spiritual plane, and we use that on investigations now and again. So this is the final part. This is part 5, and this is the children's prison, and it's a talking board session. So, and here it goes. Oh,
Who's on duty?
Why or you?
What jobs have you carried out?
S. L. A. T. O. R. Later.
Has anything been put on in or on the walls? Has anything been put in the walls or on the walls?
D. N. Y. S. C. A. R. S.
Shock yourself, kid. We are
A. R. E. O. N. T. H. E. W. A. L. L. S.
what have you been done for?
P. O. O. R. O.
Who's the rover?
E. E. T. H. K. N. O. W. S. S. No.
Who keeps? Sorry, just go down.
H. E, she, S, A, Y, S.
Who keeps the headless bodies?
R, O, V, E, R.
What are the headless bodies used for?
P, O, W, E, R. Power.
Can you name the time you came to the island?
J, U, N, E, 1, 5, June 15. What year? Page 1, 8, 3, 2, 1833.
Do you have a number, title, or name, please? Thank you. We really appreciate it for giving with us.
L, P, LP. Are they your initials? 5, 7. LP 5, 7. What number?
LP57, can you tell us your birthday, please? Thank you.
P, E, T, E, R.
Can you tell us the main symptoms of losing your life or others on this island? What's the main symptoms of?
S, I, C, K, sick. You
Have power.
have power. Who has power?
Who's the power? What's
A, P, H.
What's the worst punishment you have ever heard someone had?
D, E, A, T, H, death.
Was there a doctor on this island?
S, I, R, sir.
Thank you, Bill. Surname or family name?
Sir, what's the rest of his name? Oh. P, E, T, E, R, S.
Sir Peters.
Sir Peters. Y, O, U, A, L, L, U, M U S T G O New Orleans go U K N O W
Yeah, I'll focus the UK now.
T O M U C H. You know too much.
Okay, folks, there. So that was the final part. So we're just coming to the conclusion there. And so this is the final part. That was the talking part. I quickly run through there, the answers there, and this is interesting there. Something interesting to do with the prison. So as we began the talking board session in the children's prison, it was becoming clearer the spirits thought we were there to survey. The first answer described us that we were the ones being on duty, having the responsibility. We were inspectors working on behalf of the Royal Commission. That's what probably the spirits thought we were. That seemed to be the case according to the spirit and our examination. So we were asking questions. They thought we were inspectors. The spirit in the children's prison had carried out such jobs in slating roofs. Close to the fort are two buildings built around 1815. They are Bleak House, a two-story Admiral's House, and a single-story barracks. Another building, the Warehouse, a single-story building, was built in 1830. Interesting, all of which have slate roofs. So the spirit said he was a slate. He slated roofs. The spirit recounted that its scars are on the walls, that it found the prison disheartening or wanted to leave. So they said there were scars on the walls. Anthony presented the question, what have you been done for? The planchette moved to P-O-O-R, which means poor. This was a typical reason why the average inmate was on Spike Island for. Poverty wasn't the only reason. Starvation from the Great Famine 1845 to 1852 saw the population grow from 1,445 in 1849 on the island to 2,323 in 1851. That including the opening up of several other structures within the fort meant Spike was a heavily populated location. We found out from the spirit that the main reason for losing life on the island was down to sickness. Nothing extraordinary, as the same today, but different diseases were around. Apart from the high amount of pressure on the body from work, inmates had to deal with typhus, photogeritis, sorry about this, which is snow blindness, dysentery, cholera, and smallpox. A poor diet consisting of milk, porridge, and bread, nothing quite substantial, may explain the high mortality rate, which saw nearly 1,000 convicts die by 1854. One would assume these circumstances as atrocious, possible murder, which brings us back to the grid reference map and the murder description on the east side of the island. Some words pop up a few times. Power was mentioned, whether this was to do with a surname of a particular person on the island or to do with our team and guests' ability. The question, what were the headless bodies used for? The planchette went to P-O-W-E-R. This might be another view on the early days of establishing the modern fort. So it meant power. What were the headless bodies used for? And for power. The walls were completed by 1815. The hilltop still sat in the middle of the fort. It was reported that parts of the land was blasted. Perhaps explosives were involved. Small fuses, faulty compounds, inexperience, or pure disrespect might have resulted in losing limbs and even heads on occasions. So the reports of headless spirits, that's what was sent there on the island. Was there a purpose for this person to collect bodies, limbs, or heads? The spirit named Peter who gave the number LP57, refused to give up a surname. He came to the island in June of 1832. It was 15 years before the fort was opened as a convict depot. Peter conferred the doctor present was a sir. In the book Annals of the Famine in Ireland by Mr. Nicholson, Mr. A. Nicholson, it is stated in 1848 that Mars Power had special permission to visit the convicts on Spike Island. A Dr. Jeremy Kelly served as a medical officer for Spike Island from 1856 to 1872. In the book Too Beautiful for Thieves and Pickpockets by Carl McCarthy, writes that a Reverend Mr. Lyons described Dr. Kelly too harshly treating prisoners, and is mentioned by one prisoner, a Michael Tarbert, who died on the island, as being a bloody butcher. Kelly is said to have physically harmed Tarbert, and further complaints were made about him from other prisoners. It is truly founded that it was difficult to pick out which prisoners and staff members were telling the truth back in Dr. Kelly's time at Spike. It was tough in having to decide a fine line between those who were able and unable to work in such dire conditions. So it's going back to a doctor, maybe experiments done there, maybe just harshness to prisoners and how they treated them. The word Beth appears on the board in regard to finding more information about the rover. Whether this is the name associated with a team member or guest, we are unsure. Beth is short for Elizabeth. There were plenty of Elizabeths born on the island. The earliest was 1830 of Elizabeth Pocock. The word beef, Beth, showed up closely resembled to birth, meaning to bathe with a warm liquid or ferment and to dry to heat wood for the basis of straightening it. This term has some significance. During talking board vigil, some words were shortened, an abbreviation, or in an occasion misspelt. The abbreviation shortened has a long history, and anagrams, initial components in a phrasal word, become more common practice in the 20th century due to wireless communications. So when you see OMG and all that, that probably was used 100 years ago or so, thanks to Marconi and Morse code. Although our time inside prison was short, thankfully we had learned considerably the way of life and death which had contributed to Spike Island's dark history. Conditions were hard even for those on the island before the prison was built. We think those that were the type of energies we had made a connection with prior to 1847 and peaking at moments to the late 19th century. At the foremost of our thoughts are the pain and so many stories untold so far. So we were the spirits that we were in contact with from just before 1847 and peaking at times up to the late 1800s. So that's the conclusion, folks, and that's the end of the Fortress Spike Island review. Now you can go back and learn more, probably watch the video back more, and probably what I'm saying might make more sense if you look back on it again. So just a big shout out to everyone. Thank you for tuning in if you watched it there, and thank you if you commented there. We will be back next week now. We have guests coming on the GhostÉire channel. We have Hugh James and Elaine Moore Floyd from County Antrim Paranormal Research Association, Kappa, joining us a week tomorrow on Saturday. I'm forgetting now, but it's a week tomorrow, the date there. So, folks, it's time to say goodbye. Slán go fóill. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed watching the footage and the stuff we've been to. And happy Halloween. The season is starting. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Could stop streaming now.